Radhe Rani Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Nandana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Nandana Yamuna Tira Vanajari Yamuna Tira Vanajari Jaya Radha Madhava Gulavi Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Gulavi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Gulavi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Gulavi Sharan Bihari ki jai, Shri Jagannath Shri Baladev, Shrimati Subhadra ki jai, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai, Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the sum devotees, all glories to the sum devotees, all glories to some devotees, all glories, Shri Shri Guru Nityananda, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I was sitting in the back during the Shingne prayers and the brief, the introduction, and I was appreciating and admiring all the nice light coming into the new temple and how auspicious it feels. And then the introduction was Anuttama is going to enlighten us. And I was thinking the room's already enlightening us, so we're already there. So I'll say a few words, but I think the room's already inspiring and enlightening us. So I was asked yesterday to speak about the prayers of Queen Kunti, and unfortunately by today I forgot that I was asked to speak about the prayers of Queen Kunti. So I'm going to speak about the instructions of Lord Krishna to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. So forgive me if that's a little off the normal, what the schedule is. But I was going to read from the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, famous, important verse. There's so many famous and important verses, but 7th chapter, text 14. Is it up there?
Not yet.
Okay, so I'll just chant the Sanskrit once you can just listen and then read the text and purport. Daiviyeshu gunamaye mama maya taratya mavevanye papachante mame tom tarantite. Okay, Krishna says to Arjuna, this divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. It's up there now. Let's say it all together in unison. Everybody ready? This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Now read part of the purport from Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has innumerable energies, and all these energies are divine. Although the living entities are part of his energies and are therefore divine, that's us, we are the living entities, due to contact with material energy, their original superior power is covered. So our original superior power is covered. Being thus covered by material energy, one cannot possibly overcome its influence. As previously stated, both the material and spiritual natures, being emanations from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are eternal. The living entities belong to the eternal superior nature of the Lord, but, important but, due to contamination by the inferior nature, matter, their illusion is also eternal. The conditioned soul is therefore called Nitya Buddha, or eternally conditioned. No one can trace out the history of his becoming conditioned at a certain date in material history. We've been here a long, long time. Consequently, his or her release from the clutches of material nature is very difficult, even though that material nature is an inferior energy, because the material energy is ultimately conducted by the supreme will, which the living entity cannot overcome. And then if it's on the screen, or slide down to the next paragraph. Another meaning of guna is rope. You there? Whoever's doing it? Okay. It is to be understood that the conditioned soul is tightly tied by the ropes of illusion. A man bound by the hands and feet cannot free himself. He must be helped by a person who is unbound. Because the bound cannot help the bound, the rescuer must be liberated. Therefore, only Lord Krishna or his bona fide representative, the spiritual master, can release the conditioned soul. Without such superior help, one cannot be freed from the bondage of material nature. Devotional service or Krishna consciousness can help one gain such release. Krishna, being the Lord of the illusory energy, can order this insurmountable energy to release the conditioned soul. He orders this release out of his causeless mercy on the surrendered soul, and out of his paternal affection for the living entity, who was originally a beloved son of the Lord, son or daughter of the Lord. Therefore, surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord is the only means to get free from the clutches of the stringent material nature. Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, nice to be back in Philadelphia. I was just in India for about a month, and then I was in Kuwait for a week. Anybody been to Kuwait before? Kuwait. Anybody know where Kuwait is? Yes. Some of us from Bahrain here, right? There's wonderful Vaishnavas in that place. If you get a chance, stop and visit them. There's not a lot more in that place to visit, unless you like it really hot, and if you like sandstorms and things like that, or if you're in the oil business. It's a great place in the oil business. But there are a lot of nice Vaishnavas there. It was a pleasure to spend time with them. So it's nice to be back here. So being in that place, and actually being in any place in the world today, reminds me, I was thinking this morning, these nice pictures reproduced here of the Lord and his Krishna's incarnations, and then Lord Chaitanya's Leela, Krishna's Leela, Lord Chaitanya's Leela, and then the 10 primary avatars, and right in the middle is Lord Buddha. I was kind of thinking, why is Buddha in the middle? But then I thought, okay, let's think about Lord Buddha a little bit today. He's there, he's important. Very popular, a lot of Buddhists in the world these days. A lot of Buddhists in the world these days. And I was just actually in a grocery store line the other day, and there's a magazine, some of you may have seen or read it, Lion Something, it's a Buddhist magazine. And it was talking, interesting point, along the lines of the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. There was an article about calming our internal critic. Calming the internal critic, which according to our tradition means what? Who or what is the internal critic? Internal critic. The mind, right? Who Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita, when it's controlled, the mind is our best friend, and when it's not controlled, it's our worst enemy. So Lord Buddha, I studied a little bit of his teachings, not much since I've been a devotee, but a little bit actually in high school. One of his essential teachings, many of you know, is that life is, what did he say? Very simple. Life is, did he say life is a roller coaster? Did he say it's a lollipop? Did he say it's, what did he say? Somebody said it. Life is suffering. He didn't cut any corners. Life is suffering. And I was remembering there was a popular author quite some years ago now, like in modern psychology, M. Scott Peck, who wrote a book called Road Less Traveled, and he kind of took the Buddhist teaching, but he mellowed it a little bit for a modern audience, and he said life is, anybody know? Difficult. He thought suffering was a little too strong for people, so he said life is difficult. And we see that as devotees. I mean, there's this, we know there's just so many difficulties around the world. I live in Washington, D.C. There's so many political difficulties. We have difficulties in our families, difficulties with our jobs, difficulties with our health, difficulties with the environment, global warming. I mean, you know, there's more and more and more fires. There's more and more floods. There's more and worse hurricanes. There's more and more tornadoes. There's more and more forests are dying because the beetles are eating them up because it's not cold and it doesn't kill them. It's a lot of stuff going on out there. So life is difficult. And I just thought, I read this recently. I don't think I talked about this last time I was here. I came across this a few weeks ago. Jai Krishna didn't remember. Did I read the article about loneliness when I was here last time?
No.
Really interesting story. This is from, you can look it up. I didn't make this up. It's from a magazine called The Week. There's an article. Nearly half of all Americans today say they are lonely. Half. Okay? Just some excerpts. 1 out of 2 Americans now falls into the category of being lonely. In a recent study of 20,000 people by the health insurance company Cigna, 47% of the respondents reported often feeling alone or left out. 1 out of 2 people in the United States feel, I feel left out or lonely. 13% said there were 0 people who knew them well. Like imagine a survey, how many people know you well? You know, my mother, my father, my spouse, my best friend, you know, a few, right? Somebody out there. 13% said 0. They don't have 1 person who knows them well, okay? Loneliness is reaching epidemic levels throughout the developed world. 41% of British citizens say, listen to this, they ask them, what's your main source of company? Can you guess what 47% of the people in Britain said?
Internet.
Television or their pet is their main source of company. 47%. So much so that the UK has now created a cabinet-level minister to deal with the problem of rampant loneliness. It's like Minister of the Environment, Minister of Defense, Minister of Education, Minister of Loneliness. I mean, how big does the problem get before governments, they're good. They try to be good. They're not the quickest reacting things in the world, right? They take a while. So to get to the point of having a minister-level position, it's a big problem. A government study in Japan found that more than 500,000 people spend 6 months at home with no contact of any other people. 500,000 people. Here's a quote from former U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy. Anybody related to him? Anybody know him? Been to a party with him? Been at the embassy? No, okay, anyway. During my years of caring for patients, he said, the most common pathology I saw was not heart disease or diabetes, it was loneliness. The U.S. Surgeon General. Isn't that amazing? What impact does loneliness have? A 2010, that's a while ago, 9 years, it's gotten worse. Study at Brigham Young University found that loneliness shortens a person's life by, guess how long? If you're lonely, how many years is or months is your life shortened? 20. Oh, you're even more pessimistic than the truth. You're close though, 15. Imagine that. About the same impact as being obese or smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Or living in Delhi, where the air is like 15 cigarettes a day. I was just there. I was in Delhi, you check the weather. One day says it's unhealthy. The next day was very unhealthy. The next day it took the cake, as they say, it was hazardous. And I looked it up. It was like one day it was like smoking 10 cigarettes a day. The next day was like 15 cigarettes. The next was 20 cigarettes a day. But that's a different lecture. We're talking about loneliness right now. But one other thing, I'm just skimming some of the highlights here. Okay, now naturally, you might think, geez, well, that's old people. What can you do? Anuttama, you're 64 years old and you're talking about your problems. But we young people, we're not experiencing that. We're all happy and young and smiling. However, that's not the fact. Young people are actually the most at risk of being lonely in modern society. According to that original Cigna health study, Generation Z, anybody know who they are? Who's Z? Any Zers in here? 18 to 22, you're a Z. Okay, so let's see. Z members, 18 to 22, and millennials, that's bigger, right? 23 to, anybody know? 37, there's more of you out there, scored the highest for loneliness. Higher than like 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, and 60-year-olds. Then they ask, why are so many young people lonely today? And quick summary. Scrolling through an endless stream of curated photos, right? We know what they're talking about, right? This is Facebook and Instagram, everything else, right? Scrolling, right? Through an endless stream of curated photos of parties, vacations, family gatherings, and weddings may increase feelings of being left out or dissatisfaction with one's own life. Right? You see a lot of times, everybody, especially young people, you kind of see young people kind of walking down the street looking morose, and then they come up to something that kind of makes an interesting backdrop. So they like put on their best smile, and the guys all show up their muscles, and the girls look pretty, and with a big smile, and they snap a picture, right? And then they go back to like, okay, back to reality. And then they send their picture to all their friends. This is a fact. Sociologists talk. Then they send the picture to all their friends, and everybody's thinking everybody's happy but me. Look at all these pictures. Okay, so here's the proof. In one study of Americans aged 19 to 32, the top 25% of social media users were twice as likely to report feeling lonely as the people used it the least. So-called, quote, social media, the more you use social media, the less connected you are, the more lonely you feel, the bigger impact on your mental health, your even physical health, as we read about. So, just one other example of the complexities of the material world, that people are experiencing. Therefore, life is difficult. Life is suffering. So, as Vaishnavas, why is it so difficult, and what is there something we can do about it? Those are the questions. We want to look at things in a practical sense. And I was remembering the very first time I remember visiting the Hare Krishna temple was in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I was a student. And I remember one of the devotees there, they told me, they said, Krishna is that person that everyone's looking for. And it just really hit me. Krishna is that person everyone's looking for. I'm a college student and you're trying to get your life together and thinking about, okay, one of these days I'm gonna be Miss Right, or women, Mr. Right, and I'm gonna fall into the perfect career, this and that, or at least a good career. But they kind of stopped him in my tracks, like, wow, Krishna, because I had this sense that I'm looking for something. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but I'm looking for something, looking for someone. And we know, like in our Vaishnava teachings, it explains that we all, as Krishna is saying here, we're living entities, we're parts and parcels of Krishna. We have a spiritual divine nature, and we're all looking for pleasure. That's something that's a common denominator, whether we're, white or black or young or old, or Americans or Hindu, Muslim, Jew, this, that, rich, poor, Kuwaitis, it doesn't matter. Everybody's looking for pleasure. And I was kind of thinking, it's Sunday afternoon, it's a nice day, it's a little cold out, it's a nice day. So there's people all over the city, all over the region doing different things. As I was just picturing, imagine you drive by the river, there's some people fishing. Right? What's sculling? Is it sculling they do here? When you drive by the river, sculling? Some people are sculling this afternoon right now. Some people are dancing. Some people went for a hike. It's a great day for a hike. Some people, you go to the parks, there's always people washing their car. Right? You always see people washing their car. Some people are shopping, either online or they're, going to the stores. Some people watching television right now. They're like, what do they call it? They watch a bunch of movies one after another. Binging. They're doing movie binging. Binging. There's other people that are like doing binge drinking, probably right now. But lots of different activities. But they have, in one sense, I think we're sitting out someplace, smoking a cigarette, drinking a beer, reading a Marvel comic book. So what's the connection? Is there any connection there? Yeah, there's a strong connection. From the Vaishnava perspective, they're totally connected because they're all looking for pleasure. They're looking for happiness and satisfaction. And at the same time, as Buddha explains, it all just leads to suffering. Doesn't matter if they're rich, poor, fishing, binge drinking, binge TV. Ultimately, life is difficult, life is suffering. So they're all trying to be happy, but they're all getting the same ultimate result. Some mixed happiness. Of course, there's some happiness there. Some, you wash your car and you feel really good, and then, it rains that night, right? Or like where I used to live, you wash your car, you come home, there's a lot of geese fly over. There's a pond behind the house. And they always seem to only fly over the day I wash my car. So you think you had a nice clean car, and then you walk, oh, Krishna, like, darn it, and they aim really good. They don't hit the driveway, they hit the car, right? And usually they hit the windshield where the wipers won't clean it, so you got to get out and do it. It's like, it's like life is difficult, right? Life is difficult, life is suffering. So our Vaishnava teachers explain. And it's a radical statement because people don't want to hear this. It just goes against the grain of modern society. We live in a society that is very focused on if you want it, you can get it. If you work hard enough, you'll be successful, right? That's the American dream. You lift yourself up by your bootstraps and nothing can stop you. And it's almost true, nothing can stop us from achieving. There's barriers, of course, but in general, America more than maybe any place in the world today, it's a place where you can definitely achieve your dreams. But the catch is, your so-called dream won't make you happy. That's what Buddha says, that's what M. Scott Peck says, that's what the Vaishnava teaching says, that's what every religious spiritual tradition in the world ultimately says. Yeah, you can go for it, but it's not going to make you happy. So, why? Gita's explaining, Krishna's explaining here, because it's not happy in our current consciousness. And there's the expression, right? What is it? Try again until you succeed, right? So that's like the mantra. Just try again. Keep trying. You're going to be successful. But then more intelligent people have a different analysis. I think this is attributed to Einstein. I'm not sure. Anyway, they try to give everything to Einstein these days. But there's also an expression that to continue thinking the same solution or the same way of looking at things that got you into a problem is going to get out of that problem. That's often given as a definition of insanity. It's insane to think that the thing that got me into a problem is going to get me out of it. That's insanity. So Arjuna was in the same kind of problem. He was saying to Krishna, hey, Krishna, this isn't working. I'm in the middle of this battlefield, and now this is a horrendous civil war, and I'm a warrior, and everything I've been taught ought to be able to solve my problem. But if I win, I got to kill all those people I don't want to kill. And if I lose, somebody else is going to kill all those people I don't want to kill. So this is a big problem. And therefore, I should just quit. I'm leaving. right? We all have that experience sometimes. I'm leaving. I just want to leave. I definitely get that mode of nature sometimes. It's like, I just want to quit. I just want to quit. But Krishna told Arjuna, you can't quit because you have a certain nature. You're going to be forced to act in a certain way. Later he goes on to explain you've got certain karma. You're going to get matra sparsas to kunteya. You're going to get some happiness. You're going to get some distress. You can't change it. But what he told them was, what you can't change is what? What can you change?
Consciousness.
Is consciousness. You can change your consciousness. You can change your vision. Read the Anuttama Prabhu's home. Krishna says to Arjuna says, I want to see your universal form. And Krishna says, yes, I'll give you the eyes by which you can see it. So we have to change our consciousness. We have to change our vision. So what does that mean? What does that actually mean? So it goes back to the preliminary teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. In ignorance, without full knowledge, we and the society at large is very much thinking I'm this body. And because I'm the body, this 1967 Dodge Charger or this Tesla, or I saw one the other day, this Maserati is mine. And if I clean it in the park, or in the case of the Maserati, if I spend $150 to have it detailed, which if you don't know basically means cleaned, basically just means you're paying $150 to have your car washed. Because common people wash their cars, wealthy people detail their cars. And so keep that distinction in mind. If someone comes and tells you they had their car detailed, don't embarrass them by saying, I got mine washed last week at Jack's. They won't like to hear that. So thinking that I'm the body, I'm matter, and that material things can make me happy. Again, the list, right? Washing the car, fishing, sports, dance, shopping, chess, whatever it is, thinking that actually is going to satisfy me. But we read the results. 47% of the people are saying they're lonely, something's missing, they're feeling left out. Even the young people are scrolling through the pictures of all the beautiful, happy people. And I just put up 5 pictures today of me looking beautiful and happy, but I feel terrible. So take a few more pictures and send a few more pictures, you feel more and more terrible. And oh, by the way, you're losing 15 years off your life because you feel so terrible. So, that's a pretty pleasant situation. But devotees, Krishna's saying to Arjuna, hey, you can change that. And that's like this wonderfully happy message we have for the world. Sometimes people will complain, you Christians, you're negative. We're not negative. We're the most positive people in the world. It's like you go to the hospital and the doctor says, you got any problem in your lung. I think we need to operate. You don't say, you're a pessimist. I'm just going to go on smoking and doing everything else, and just don't be so pessimistic. My wife made me come and see you, and I knew you were going to be a pessimist. Right? What kind of fool would say that? Oh, there's a problem. The doctor's saying there's a problem, but we can fix the problem, and then everything's going to be better. That's not a pessimist. That's a medical procedure. So there's a spiritual medical procedure, which Krishna is explaining to us here, that while we're under the control of material nature, it's very difficult. It's difficult, and it's suffering, and it's painful, and all these different things. But we can change that. So this idea that the more I get, the more better quality, the more quantity of material things I get, that's going to satisfy, just doesn't work. And I was thinking about that now. I'm 64, so I'm about to go on Medicare. It's like, whoa, Medicare. That means you're getting old, doesn't it? Like, I thought old people got Medicare. How come I'm getting Medicare? It's like, well, actually, you're old. Oh, okay, well, I'm old. Okay, So going through that kind of a transition. But that means thinking a lot of people I know they're retiring. And there's this kind of myth out there that, okay, you're going to retire. Again, you can go, the American thing, right? You can go fishing all you want. You can play chess all you want. But those people aren't necessarily any happier. A lot of times you talk about people that retire, they're like really unhappy because they want to go back to the office. And, after like 2 weeks of thinking, wow, I'm retired, it's like, oh, I am so bored. And then feelings of like uselessness and lacking contribution and boredom, and all their friends are at the office, and etc. So all these it's a trick of the mind. That's why Prabhupada talks about it's an illusion. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. So I think I mentioned last time I'd done some reading about people who win the lotto. You ever read any of those things? People that win the lottery, win like $20 million. What always happens? Their life falls apart. It's like the worst thing that could happen. Don't Don't buy a ticket, it's a waste of money. And if you win, give it to somebody else. Like, give it to Krishna, come and put it in the box and put a note, this is a winning ticket, don't throw this away. Because if you keep it, you can look it up statistically, people that win the lottery, it's horrible. All of a sudden they realize the next day they've got like 20 friends they never knew they had and 50 relatives they never heard of who all just show up to celebrate with them. And where's my room? Right? Etc. And then they just exploit the heck out of them. And it's some very, very sad stories. So based on this misunderstanding, so Krishna is explaining here what our understanding should be. And it's something we have to hear again and again. Again, Prabhupada sometimes describes we're in a condition of amnesia. We're kind of forgetful. Sometimes people with amnesia, they have to go and show them their home and their car and their family, and they don't get it. But after a while, through that association, they realize, whoa, this place is starting to feel familiar, etc. So we're spiritual. And described in the scripture, we need to get out of our material consciousness. The analogy is given in Bhagavatam, it's beautiful, and we've all heard it so many times, it's a powerful one. We're like a bird in a cage. And the whole society is just telling us, polish that cage. And if you're really good, you can trade it in and get a brass cage, not an aluminum cage. And if you're really, really good, maybe you get a gold cage. So, after all, what's more important in life than dying in a gold cage? Right? That's success, isn't it? We've all seen bird cages, right? Bird cage is not the nicest place in the world. They got a newspaper. You don't want them to fall down there. But they all fall. They all die. They fall down there. So that's the examples given. We're like a bird in a cage. So Krishna here is saying it's very hard to get out of this material energy. But we can do it by surrendering to Him, by changing our consciousness to know this is where it gets difficult because of the way we think now, the way we need to change. He's saying he said surrender. We have to stop thinking I'm the boss, I'm in charge, I'm the master. And start thinking I'm the servant. Now, if we went out public and we kind of took a survey of people, we want to be the servant. We want to be the master. But at the same time, with our intelligence, we see, okay, be the master of your car. It doesn't make you happy. Be the master of the fishing rod. Be the master of the office. Be the master of winning the lotto. But something doesn't work right. So, therefore, Krishna is saying the way out of this misunderstanding of the dilemma of this being, uses the word trapped in material consciousness, is we need to surrender to Him. And that's when starts sounding like really religious. Reminds me of people like holding Bibles on the street or, singing hymns, you surrender. And my mind goes, no, thank you. I don't want to surrender. I want to be the boss. And it's a little scary too, even if we're a little more devotional, most of us, than me. It's scary. We think, okay, surrender. And Krishna uses that word until we think about it. Because we're already surrendered. That's the illusion. We're thinking I'm in charge. Everything's working according to me. But we're already surrendered. Anybody got to go to work tomorrow? Raise your hand if you have to go to work tomorrow. Okay, you are surrendered. Okay, 15 days. Surrender. I read something one time, the average American, when you count up all the taxes, right? Income taxes, retirement tax, sales tax, gas tax, there's a lot of them, right? Where's Drone? Drone works for the government. There's a few taxes. Property tax, you add them all up. The average American, at least a few years ago, worked until like the 15th of May every year, the first January, February, March, April, 4.5 months, only for the government. Didn't know that, did you? Okay. But the good news is you only got another 6 weeks to go, and then you start making money for yourself on the 16th of May. Might have been the 1st of May or something like that. So we're surrendered, isn't it? Think about it. I'm going to work, like the quote, for the man, right? I'm thinking I'm going to work for me. I'm going to work to pay for taxes. Now, we're not, anarchists, and the government's a good thing, and we want to be good citizens and participate, and it's our responsibility to pay, all of those things. I'm not saying that's not the fact that we should be good citizens. But at the same time, in this context of thinking, why should I surrender? I'm a free man. That's the illusion. For months, we're working for somebody else. The boss, every single day, practically everybody's got a boss. If you don't have a boss, you've got customers. You got to like pamper. We boss, yes sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am, yeah. And you're like thinking this person's driving me crazy, but they're the boss. I have to surrender to like people in our lives sometimes, and not that it's not a good thing. That's part of living with other people. But the point I'm making is to think that I'm not surrendered to anything, and now I have to surrender something. It's wrong. The question is, where and who do I surrender to? And I'm sure there's, diverse community here. Some of us may think, I don't know if they have my best intention in mind at every moment of the day. It's a mixed thing, isn't it? But we're surrendered. We're surrendered. So Krishna is saying, surrender to him, surrender to me, Krishna is saying. So maybe it's something not so strange. Maybe it's something we could do. Maybe it's something that we could and should consider in a more serious way. Because it's not just religion either. It's not just, Prabhupada said this is science and it's devotional service. Prabhupada never translated bhakti as devotion. Maybe he did once or twice, but the vast majority of the time is devotional service. So there's some obligation there. There's something, we have to do something. So when Krishna says surrender, what does that mean? How do we do that? At least theoretically, how do we make some progress? And actually, it's quite simple. But again, it's not just, okay, I believe in Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita is there and I like to come to the temple. Those things are all wonderful. Those are wonderful, 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 wonderful. But it's not enough. It's not enough. Because Krishna says the goal is to awaken love for him. And the goal is to become free from material desire. So it's a process. So coming to the temple, all the things we do here is part of the process. And in and of itself, it's glorious and it's very, very, very important. But we shouldn't think, okay, I went, I'm done. It should be, I went, what did I learn? Am I inspired to do? What's the next step? So that's Krishna's message here when he says it's very difficult to get out of the material world, but if you surrender to me, I can help you. And it's probably explained, I will help you. Probably explains in the purport. The material energy is part of Krishna's energy. We can't get out of our own accord. Doesn't matter how wealthy we are, how powerful we are, our country, our family, our tribe. None of those things can ultimately help us get out of the clutches of the material nature. Krishna can get us out of material nature. And he says it's easy, just surrender. But then it gets us back to like, well, just surrender. Okay, that doesn't seem so easy. And how do we do it? But actually, it's quite easy. It's quite easy. We simply have to try to do what pleases him. Like, what does it mean to surrender to Krishna? Oh my gosh. Well, just try to do what pleases him. That's what it means. It's a pretty simple thing. He's a person. He's a supreme person. For instance, a couple of simple things. And all of us are at different stages in our spiritual life. And the idea of community in Krishna consciousness is not that we, walk around thinking I'm better than somebody else because whatever, I chant 16 rounds, they chant 2. Or I do this and they do that, or I give this much and they give less, or I came to the temple 2 hours and they came. That's not what it's all about. It's all about how can I take the next step? And how can I help you take the next step? Somebody can walk in the door today for the very first time and make tremendous advancement, or maybe just be a pretty advanced person already and they come in touch with Krishna once and poof, they're a very serious devotee. And others of us that maybe, we're dealing with different circumstances. So the question is, what's the next step? And therefore it describes in the Shastra that devotional service, that Krishna consciousness just means accepting what's favorable and rejecting what's unfavorable. So trying to make that commitment. Okay, what pleases Krishna, what doesn't please Krishna? Right? It's like if you get married, right? Those of us that are married. It's not always easy, but you try to do those things that please your spouse. And you try to not do the things that disturb your spouse. If you're a parent, right, you try to do the things that please your children within reason. And you don't do those things that displease them. So that's the simple formula of Krishna consciousness, how to make progress in spiritual life. He says if we surrender, he'll deliver us. How do we surrender? Try to accept those things that are favorable. And again, it starts with simple things. For instance, we know Krishna, God, doesn't like to see people or other beings treated violently. He doesn't like that. He explains throughout the Bhagavad Gita, he's the Father, just in this purport. Has paternal feelings towards every living being. So he says he'd rather not see living entities hurt, doesn't want to see violence. So as devotees, we try to practice vegetarianism, and we try to promote it and teach it to people. We may have been vegetarians for 40, 50 years, maybe some of us here aren't doing that. It's a step in the right direction. We should try to make that a serious step. And then once vegetarian, then of course then we learn how to offer that food with prayer and meditation. So it's a step. We all know sometimes you meet people that are kind of beginning their spiritual life, and they'll say things like, yeah, I know it's good to like cut out my meat, so I'm like meatless Mondays. I saw something, they're trying to promote that in schools even, meatless Mondays. We should support that like crazy. Now, we may think, well, meatless Monday, what about Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Well, it's the next step. Let's welcome, encourage, and facilitate that step. Okay? And in our own lives too, we have to be gracious, because we all have a next step. We shouldn't think, oh, that person hasn't done this step yet. We should be thinking, what's my next step? What's the next thing that I can do to come closer to Krishna? And we know that Krishna explains, that for every step we take towards Krishna, he takes more steps towards us. So, simple things we talk about are 4, regulated principles. And so Krishna says, don't gamble. It pleases me to not gamble. So, okay, we probably know people, or sometimes maybe we have a little inclination towards gambling. So Krishna says, do you want to please me? Minimize that, cut that out. So, okay, let me try to cut that out for Krishna. Okay, Krishna says, no intoxication. The Charist said, okay, some of us, maybe that's something we kind of gave up a while ago. Some of us may be working on that. Some people, maybe it's a new thing, like, whoa, intoxication. Intoxication, what does it mean? Intoxication, to ingest toxic chemicals into my body that perceivably give me a short-term feeling of happiness that science, statistics, and practical experience demonstrate actually leave me feeling worse. And on the side, they kill brain cells and lung cells and heart cells and everything else. But the whole world's saying it make you happy. We flew through Dubai. In Dubai, the last time I was, a couple of times ago, they had one store, it was a liquor store. And they had a big sign, the most expensive bottle of liquor in the world. Anybody want to guess how much it was? But you're pretty good on numbers. What do you guess? How much? The most expensive bottle of liquor? Okay. I don't know if it was whiskey or something, but anybody know how much? Take a guess. The most expensive. And then they had it for sale. I was thinking about it. My credit card didn't have that high enough a limit. You're very close if you increase that by 100. $175,000. And on top of everything else, I was thinking, so somebody buys that. First of all, they're just going to put it on the shelf, right? Because you're not going to, drink it, right? And what if they had so much money they decide to drink it? And what if it tastes bad? What do you do with it? You take it back? Yeah. Isn't that like illusory? It's like, there's no win in that situation, It's just like lose. So anyway, such crazy things going on in the world. So Krishna says, hey, don't do that. So being a devotee or spiritualist part means we make steps towards that. Krishna says, no illicit sex. So, okay, let me try to restrict my sex life within marriage. Those who have taken vows, we take the next step, and sex life is ideally meant for procreation. So, okay, those are something Krishna asked, so let's try to do that. But here's what's really interesting. A lot of people in the society, you tell people, what are your principles? Well, we don't smoke, we don't drink, we don't have illicit sex, we don't eat meat, we don't eat intoxication of any kind, and we don't gamble. And I remember the same temple I went to, they told me you're searching for Krishna. I asked them one time, well, what's your life like as a devotee? And they told me those 4 things. And I remember, I asked them, I said, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no meeting, no gambling. They said, yeah. I said, what do you do? That's how deeply sunk in illusion I was. It's like, what do you do? I'm a college student. You don't do that. What do you do? So anyway, the thing that's amazing, one of the things that's amazing is those same things are really bad for people. You know, the typical person says, you don't do those things, how do you live without those things? And the fact is, we live a lot longer. And we live a lot happier. And we've got a lot more brain cells and a lot less, I mean, you know, devotees sometimes, you know, we also are subject to some terrible diseases, and let's pray none of us have those problems. And if we do, we know Krishna ultimately is taking care of us. But we avoid a lot of stuff that causes heart disease and cancer and all these different kind of things. So the very same things Krishna says don't do, it's not like he's telling us, like, okay, you want to be devoted? Stop exercising. You know, eat healthy, moderate your eating, your sleeping, your working, your recreation. All this stuff he's asking us to do, quote, to give up, it's actually really good for us. It's actually really, really good for us. You know, gambling is really just terribly destructive. It ruins families, ruins people, ruins lives. Sometimes you read about people that have some addiction to gambling. They go to like a casino and they lock their kids in the car, and you know, they come out the next day and the kid's been in the car for 24 hours. It happens. It happens a lot, you know. And even illicit sex. I mean, talk about a factor that destroys families, ruins relationships, and what to speak of all the terrible diseases out there. You know, these are things that aren't so good for us. So Krishna says, just try to surrender to me, you know, try to minimize these things that aren't good for us, increases our truthfulness. So all we have to do, he's just saying, just add Krishna. Just add a little more Krishna to our lives. My wife tells a story. She became a devotee in 1968, and Prabhupada was speaking about being sincere. Prabhupada was saying, just be sincere, be sincere, be sincere devotee. So she asked him, Prabhupada, how do we become sincere? And Prabhupada shot right back. He said, how do you become a thief? And she was really surprised. And she said, well, practice. Associate with thieves. And Prabhupada said, yeah, you associate with thieves and you practice. He said, you know, so in a similar way as devotees, how do we surrender to Krishna? It's not so difficult. Try to do the things that please Krishna. Try to associate with devotees as best we can. And we know that, you know, we're imperfect beings. I learned a wonderful new thing from Jonacharya Prabhu today. He said that if we're going to fall forward. We all make mistakes, but like learn from our mistakes, you know, so we fall forward, pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and move on. So it's very practical. So Prabhupada said just practice, associate with devotees. So I'll just end, I want to commend all of you. I personally, if I wasn't able to visit ISKCON temples and sit and chant and have kirtan and hear class, occasionally get to speak at class, I would never be able to maintain my spiritual life without the association of devotees. It wouldn't happen. It would be finished. I know that for a fact. So I just want to thank and commend all of you for coming here. You got busy lives. Right? We could be fishing, we could be washing our cars, etc. It's Sunday afternoon, but you came here. And just remind us all that as Krishna's explaining here, he's helping us. Sometimes it's hard to feel that. Sometimes he kind of plays a little hide and seek and you're not quite sure if he's there. Other times we very much feel his presence, but the Shastra and the Charyas and our own past experience, we've all had these. We know that Krishna's there and he's helping us. Again, describe for one step we take towards him, he takes 10 steps towards us. So we should have faith in that. We should keep coming to the temple because association is essential. Seeing the deities is essential. Keep chanting, keep reading, keep associating. Try more and more to avoid those things that aren't good for us. And, you know, and again, sometimes we make mistakes, you know, like, you read an article and that just contaminated my mind. I shouldn't have read that. Okay, so next time, be more careful what you read. You know, I shouldn't have looked at that or stared at that or listened to that or people allowed myself to be part of that conversation. Okay, so the pain of experiencing that wasn't a good thing for me. That's all right, Krishna, that wasn't a wise decision. Next time I hear that conversation start, I'm going to say, thank you, I need to go now. Next time I see my mind contemplating something that's not good for me, I'm going to remember and I'm just going to bring it back. We just keep trying. And Krishna says that we keep doing that, as explained here, We can't get out of this material energy by ourselves, but if we surrender to him, which just means try to please him, little small steps. Dr. Notakor said that progress is a series of small steps moving in the right direction. So we just keep taking the small steps, and that's all he's asking for. He knows it's tough. Lord Chaitanya came because he knows it's tough. He said, just chant. Eat prasadam, chant, associate with devotees, don't worry about the details. But like they say, don't sweat the small stuff. Because he knew how hard it was. So he made it easy for us. And if we do this gradually, Krishna will manifest. That's what he wants. He wants to manifest. He's just waiting for us to have that desire. So how do we get the desire? Practice. Associate with devotees, and it'll come. So I have another announcement to make, but maybe we'll take a minute or two. If there's any questions? Any questions you would like to have?
Prabhu, earlier you said you take a step towards Krishna, he takes 10 towards you. When I first came to the temple back in 71, he took 1,000,000 towards you. That made me very enthusiastic.
That made you very enthusiastic. Great.
Instead of 10, he took 1,000,000. That's made me very
See, by associating with devotees, when we hear even little stories like that, then we get inspiration. Wow, you experienced that? And we should share those stories among ourselves. And sometimes associate devotees means going up to one another and saying, I don't hear Krishna's pitter-patter of his feet right now. Are you sure he's there? Can you help me hear him? Can you help me feel his presence? Can you help me understand that he's there? And that's very important. Yeah, it's very important to help each other see and feel Krishna's presence. So thank you for that comment. Haryashva Prabhu.
You spoke about Krishna's energy, and that it was different. Illusory energy was difficult to overcome. But you also explained that basically we were surrendered, just surrendered to the wrong source. And you explained that our real problem is consciousness, that our consciousness is unclouded. And so as devotees even, on the path to triumph, maybe you can share with us how to help work on that consciousness, to help clear, make that consciousness in some way clear.
Yeah, how do we clear that consciousness? Well, that's as I was mentioning, that comes through the process of Krishna consciousness, through association with devotees, through avoiding those things that don't please Krishna, eating food that's been offered to Krishna, avoiding food from violent sources, chanting, reading, worshiping, being with the devotees. Those that are working, it's a fact, we make money. Sometimes that money doesn't come from the greatest means in the world. Whatever company you work for, there's some collective karma just for the work that we do. Donate some of that money to Krishna. The temple can always use more money. Anybody that noticed, we have a beautiful building in the middle of two not very beautiful buildings. That's another talk, but there's lots more opportunity for service. And, and just, maintaining the temple thing. So that's another thing, use some of our money for that. Make our homes Krishna conscious as best we can. Clear out all that stuff that distracts us. And, it's always such a pleasure to visit devotees' homes because they got pictures of Krishna in so many different places and sometimes have deities in the home. There's so many different things that we can do. There's 9 major processes of bhakti. So just make those next steps. Make those steps. Very practical things. Any question from the ladies' side? It was that bad of a talk? Not even one question? Really? You're all my mothers. If my mother doesn't ask me a question, that's a bad day. Prabhu, you're on the men's side. No, it's okay. Go ahead. We're not gender exclusive here.
Gambling, alcohol, etc. Could you tell us where in Bhagavad Gita he says this?
Where in Bhagavad Gita?
You're talking to someone and they say, well, when did this
Yeah, okay. Somebody help me on that specific verses. One thing we know, Krishna, as a devotee, we should only do those things that, like we only eat what Krishna's eaten. And Krishna describes, if one offers me with a fruit, flower, leaf, or water, then he'll accept it. And Prabhupada in the purport explains, therefore, devotees, vegetables and grains and milk products, we don't eat other kinds of things. So That's one place. In the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad, you know what verses? In the Bhagavatam, there's a couple places where specifically it's described like the four regulative principles. So we can look those up for you. Because somebody wants some specific reference, we should find those for you. But the general principle is we don't want to do things that are harmful to our bodies. It's described by the Acharyas, say people are already intoxicated. We're intoxicated with power in the sense of the body. So we want to bring that down. We know that, eating meat is definitely a clear bad because it causes violence to other living entities like that. So I don't know the reference in Bhagavatam, but we can look it up for you. It's a good question. We should know that. Thank you.
Exactly, all of them are listed in Bhagavatam, with the different, destroying truthfulness and how all the gambling, the intoxication, all these things, they destroy the family.
Yeah, so there's the four pillars of religion as it's described, which is cleanliness, truthfulness, mercifulness, austerity. And each of those things destroys one of those qualities. So do you know what particular that is in Shastra?
First canto, 17th chapter.
What is it? First canto?
17th chapter.
What verse?
First I don't know.
We get closer. First canto, 17th chapter. Okay? The only thing that embarrasses me more than I don't know what exact verse is, that there's 150 people here and nobody else knows either, which makes me feel a little less. Can you look it up for him and tell me?
Sure, I can.
See this devotee in the blue here? He makes the announcements. He's going to look it up for
There
you.
is one shloka, Prabhu.
Please.
Tatascha anudinam dharma satyam shautam kshama kalena balena rajam nānchitāya dharmasmiti. In that,
And where's that? What verse?
Bhagavad-
Bob, you know what verse?
I don't know the exact now.
Yeah, we're all got this problem.
He
Yeah.
mentioned-
Translation?
Translation, every day, these things will be going down. Like,
The religious principles. And it's in the purport, Prabhupada specifically talks about the four sinful. Okay. So we know it's there. We got to find the verse number for you. Thank you. Thank you for pointing out that we all have some room for improvement in our devotional service. Because we should know these things. Okay? All right. So a brief announcement. I think many of you know Jai Krishna. Jai Krishna, you might stand up for just a minute. This is Jai Krishna Prabhu. He is been the president of the New Vrindavan community for the last 7 or 8 years. And previous to that time, he was executive director of the Bhaktivedanta College. Some of you may know the Bhaktivedanta College in Bangladesh, wonderful place. Look on their website, a lot of amazing programs are there, including now the Alfred Ford School of Business, which is an affiliate. You can actually is offering master's degrees in business education. So he was part of the pioneer of that whole program. But currently, he's also assisting the temples in this area and assisting me as your governing body commissioner representative at GBC, and is serving as a regional secretary for about 6 or 8 temples on the East Coast. So he's going to help us manage. I think everybody knows Balabhadra Prabhu. Maybe stand up for a second. Okay, he's got a cold. We shouldn't make him stand up, but we're gonna. He's been the president of this temple for 3 years now. Now, it's an unusual situation in Philadelphia because we don't have a live-in local residing temple president. And lots of different reasons for that. But we've been fortunate at Balabhadra Prabhu. He flies back and forth. His home's in Atlanta. So he's been participating as a board member and also as a temple president, although limited. And he's the first one to say it's limited in how much time he actually can put in here. But he's been a Prabhupada disciple for 46 years. Raise your hand if you're under 46. Who's 46 and under? Okay, I would expect every lady in the room is going to raise your hand. Isn't that psychology? Please. Okay, I was just asking the men here. I know the ladies are. Yeah. So anyway, a lot of seniority. So the 3 of us were in town this weekend, and we were meeting with a lot of the devotees and the board members and some department heads and a lot of members of the congregation. And the reason being, and we've been kind of addressing these things for a couple months now, it's a challenge for us to not have somebody here who is a full-time live-in or at least full-time locally in the area president. And it's not such an easy thing to do. It's not like they're easy to find. So what we have, but the board decided this weekend, which I'm feeling really good about, is where Ballabhadra is continuing as our temple president. The board, of course, is there. And there's the GBC above the board, ISKCON and Prabhupada and Krishna. But particularly, we felt there's a need for more hands-on administration in the temple. So what the board decided today is we're establishing 2 vice presidents, which is Dronacharya Prabhu
Haribo.
and Sham Kumar Prabhu. Haribo for both of them. Now, if you've been visiting this temple for any period of time, you know both Dronacharya and Sham Kumar Prabhu. They're both very dedicated, hardworking, committed members of the community, and very active with different festivals and programs and different things like that. Dronacharya previously was on the board as well. So they're taking on these 2 roles. Now, we're in the process of, because I just want to give everybody kind of the update without too many details. We're working on the job or service description for what exactly they'll do. They'll be working under the temple president. Both of them live here, but they both work and have families and they've got various obligations. But we feel very confident with the 2 of them. It's going to help us. We've opened this beautiful temple. There's a lot more work to be done. We're meant to actually be kind of, as Prabhupada sometimes says, inundating Philadelphia with Krishna consciousness. So there's a lot more to be done for that. And particularly we need to have a little more kind of focused attention on how to serve the congregation and also facilitate the service of the congregation. Because in Krishna consciousness, it's not just that you join the temple or you become active in the temple, but it's then, okay, what do I do to help the temple? What do I do to help expand Krishna's mercy? So the 2 of them are in this position. Some of the things that have been going on, some of the different, last time I was here, actually talked about the TMSC, the Temple Management and Support Committee. We've had various committees, and a finance committee for a long time. We're reassessing those different aspects of temple management, in large part because we want to try to help create an environment of unity and cooperation and more smooth functioning within the temple. So the details are still in process. The board's going to be in ongoing conversation with our 2 vice presidents. But we want to let everybody know that this is something that there's change that's been made, and we're pretty enthusiastic about it, and we need all of you to support them, and ask all of you too to genuinely see that there's going to be more and more opportunities for service. Would either or both of you like to say something? Why don't you share something?
Haribo.
Just for the record, because the temple finances are a little tight, there's no budget for either of them having a salary, so I'm splitting half of the money you give me, which means all 3 of us are hungry, and anything you'd like to know, it's not a paid position. You're doing this purely as a volunteer service. Okay, we use that microphone?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Can you hear?
I think
You're okay?
Yeah.
All right. Both Sham Prabhu and myself, we're extremely grateful for this opportunity to serve you, this temple community. Specifically, we're grateful to board members, senior board members, Kaivalya Prabhu and Vishnu Vidar Prabhu, Nita Kriya, Mataji, and Ramcharan Prabhu. As you mentioned, Anuttama Prabhu, this position of servant leadership. We are your servants. There's a lot of service here to be done for the glorification of Krishna and the expansion and advancement of the Krishna consciousness movement. We hope to bring about a sense of unity, a sense of focus. We have a mission here. The mission has very clearly been laid out to us by our founder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada. So we want to unify each other around this mission, to grow inwardly as devotees, and then to expand ourselves outwardly to the community and give the gifts of Krishna consciousness that have been given to us. So we ask you for your support, your cooperation. Please pray for us as we continue this journey of spreading Krishna consciousness here in Philadelphia. Shalom Prabhu.
Thank you, Dharan Prabhu. So, I want to thank again all the devotees that were involved in giving me this service. And personally, it's a service that I want to do to please my Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, and eventually Krishna. But it's not just one or two of us that want to take this journey. We want to help ourselves, and we also want to make sure that all of us together serve to please Srila Prabhupada's mission and Krishna. So it is for all of us to actually be in this journey together and help spread the glorification of Krishna. So thank you all. Hare Krishna.
So I want to invite, thank you both very much, and we appreciate your willingness and enthusiasm to take up the service, and we all want to help support you, supporting us. So thank you for that. So Ramcharan Prabhu, announcements.
Yes. Thank you all for coming for Sunday's feast. So let's again give big round of applause for this. Again, we are very grateful to Balbhadra Prabhu who is coming here and giving us guidance. J. Krishna Prabhu, our regional secretary, and my deepest congratulations to both of Dronacharya Prabhu and Shyam Kumar Prabhu for taking this responsibility in this temple. So let's give our full support so that they will support us here. Because we also need support. We are here coming for our development of Krishna consciousness, and we need a very nice environment, and now they are taking this responsibility. So let's go for that. Today is Ekadashi. As you all know, we are fasting from beans and grains. And if you see like Prasadam, this Ekadashi Prasadam. And tomorrow we are breaking our Ekadashi fast. The timing is 6:45 till 10:58. So note down the timing. If you are not getting emails, you can give outside. We have in a lobby we have a table. You can give your email address and we'll send you the details. Today's Sunday feast is cooked by our temple devotees, Sridhar Prabhu, Lalit Krishna Prabhu, Brajbandhu Prabhu, Sweet Prabhu, and Bhakta Shakti Prabhu. So let's thank God. We have two sponsors for today's Sunday feast. The first one is Ram Chitriala and Usha Chitriala for their daughter Medha's 8th birthday. Are they here? So please come. We have Prashad. Give to Uttam. I request all Vaishnavas to give blessing on her birthday by chanting Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Thank you very much, Medha, for sponsoring. So before I make a special announcement for the Sunday school.
If your children are actually registered in Sunday school for this year. Thank you.
So, Anuttama reminded me there is a second sponsor, but he's anonymous. so let's pray for him. Like we chant Hare Krishna mantra for them. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And this Tuesday, April 2nd, wonderful devotees like Grasta devotee, Dwarkadish Prabhu and his wife, they are coming visiting our temple. They are going to give a special seminar on Grasta Ashrama. So that will start, program will start at 6:30 on Tuesday here in Philadelphia temple. And they are in Delaware on Monday. So if you're visiting Delaware, if you want to go there, you can go on Monday in Delaware. You can call Krishna Kirtan to get the details when the timings are. But here is at 6:30. They are wonderful devotees. They are visiting US. So come here on Tuesday, April 2nd. April 16th, next week, there will be, because spring is here and we have a lot of jobs to do it on the garden. There will be spring cleaning that's going on April 6th. We need volunteers because there's a lot of work. We need to clean up a lot of things outside. So we need volunteers. Please sign up the volunteers. Go in the office or you can give in the lobby, the main table, which is welcome table. It will start at 9:30 a.m. in the morning and it will finish at 12:30 p.m. So that's April 16th. We need volunteers for temple spring cleaning.
What did they sign up? They talk to you?
Not to me, they can give their names and phone number, they will contact. Yes, at the desk. April 6th. Ramnami festival. It's on April 13th, Saturday. So it started 2:30 and it will go till 7 o'clock. We will send out the detail in the email. So please mark your calendar. Saturday, April 13th is our Ramnami festival. Now I would like to call Nitai Priya Mataji to give an announcement on the child protection team.
Hare Krishna. I'm here standing because I represent Child Protection Team. So just want you to know that we are very active here and we want your help. So all the parents who have small kids, first of all, I want to commend you because as Prabhu was saying that we should bring us towards Krishna and you are doing that for your child too. And as all of us here, we want that experience for your child to be a very pleasant experience. And for that purpose, we are very active here, telling every parents to be very, very vigilant, every time, whenever you have kids here, please make sure that you are actually looking after them. We'll do our part, but we need you to do your part. So, all the parents, I think most of you have signed some kind of form, right? Just to let you know that we are very getting because we've heard so many things, other parents, some concerns, some things of those sort. And then we worked out kind of a system where parents will do their part and we'll do our part so that the whole environment and whole experience for everyone will be a pleasant one. Okay, so are you all ready to help us here? So thank you so much for stepping forward and let's just bring out that kind of environment where your kids are playing here and you are not worrying about them as much, So just make sure that one of you, either parents or somebody is with them every moment. Only when they're in class you'll be okay, but other times, we need to be very responsible here. You understand that? Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
I just want to add something to that. Sometimes parents think of the temple as a daycare center, and we don't have organized daycare here. There are Sunday school classes, but it's the parent's responsibility to take your child, do the Sunday school class, and get them out of the Sunday school class. And don't think, okay, I'm just going to come on Tuesday or Wednesday or Sunday and just drop my child off and everything will be fine. Please don't do that. This is a big building. There's dark spaces in the basement. There's stairs. There's trees that you can fall on. So it's your responsibility to watch your children when you bring them here. We love children. We want you to have a great experience with your children, as Hari Priya mentioned. But it still remains the parent's experience to be with your children. One of you, there's two parents here, one of you need to be with your children at all times. Or you've handed them over for a short period of time in an organized Sunday school program. Please, it's your responsibility. Thank you. Bad things happen if we're not careful, even at the temples they can happen, so be careful.
Thank you, Prabhu. So So now, before we break for dinner, we just want to, just a reminder, Wednesday is our Kirtan day, 6:30, we have Kirtan here at the temple. On Thursday, we are doing study of Srila Prabhu Lilamrits. If anyone would like to sponsor our Sunday feast, or in the occasion of their special birthday, anniversary or ceremony, please go to the congregation office, or you can call our temple office number 215-247-4600. So now we are going to break for dinner, and we are going to come back 6:30 for japa session and the aarti. So I would like everyone like to come here at 6:30 so that we can start on time. The dinner will be served in the dinner hall, the prasadam, and then anyone who is serving the prasadam, I request to wash your hands before serving, and we need some volunteer help after the prasadam. So thank you very much.